Welcome everybody, and a very special warm welcome to everybody who's come in that's new to the group. Big heartfelt welcome, because in this space, Thyroid Healthy Balance, we are here to help you navigate this very complex health picture, which varies from individual to individual. And this is why I wanted to really bring this topic here tonight, all about different food chemicals or compounds, so that you can actually get to understand what may be a triggering situation in your body or not. Okay. See, this is the thing, like I hold on to this. My hallmark really is, there's no one size fits all, and it couldn't be more true, because if we all just did the same thing, why is it that we all don't get better? Yeah, because there's just so many, it's too complex. There's too many other factors to consider. So if you're jumping on in here, say hello, let me know that you're here, and give me a heart, give me a thumbs up. I'm just going to wait a few more minutes for people to jump on in. You might be having your dinner. Since we're talking about food, what have you had for dinner? And if you're willing to state what you've had for dinner, I'll be really, really happy to explain what potential sabotaging factors could be or not, because obviously, it's down to the individual, right? Hey, Linda. Oh, lovely to see you, Linda. Yes, I saw your message today. I must get back to you. Beautiful. And yeah, we've got a few people jumping on in here now. Let me know where you're from. If you're new to the group, say hello, because I want to really make this interactive. Clearly, this is a space where you can ask questions and get your answers on the call. So yes, come on in and ask your questions. Right, now I'm going to get into it. And every now and then I'm just going to pop into the chat just to see if there's any questions. All right, so the topic for tonight is the pros and cons of certain foods in healing Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. All right, now what I'm specifically talking about tonight are healthy foods. Yeah, like we know about sugars, advanced glycation end products, all the sabotaging factors from, all the E numbers and additives and all of those types of heavily processed foods. Certainly if you're unsure of all of that, that we can do a live training on that another time. However, tonight, just write unsure. Actually, if you're coming in on the replay, do a hashtag replay. I forgot to mention that. And, if you're unsure of all of the foods, just write unsure. But tonight we're specifically talking about the health foods, because the thing is a medicine in one person's body can be problematic in another person's body. So therefore, if we look at food as medicine, it's no surprise then that medicine or form of medicine could be problematic in one person's body and not be problematic. It can be absolutely advantageous in somebody else's body, right? And, sometimes you can be absolutely none the wiser. And it could be a situation where it has become, the food group has become a sabotaging factor to your healing. So you might be doing all of the right things. You might be, lowering your stress, dealing with your gut infection, all of these types of things, because, we've got different root causes, and then we've got sabotaging factors, or exacerbating factors, I should say. Yeah, exacerbating factors, which becomes the sabotaging factors to healing, right? So this is why it's incredibly complex. So you could be doing your gut protocol to heal your digestive system, which is absolutely fantastic, by the way, because a lot of the root causes do stem from the disharmony in the gut. There's a lot of research and evidence on species in the gut, their interactions. Of course, there's leaky gut, and, it's not just about that. There's a level of leaky gut. and whether there's any food intolerances, how well your digestive system is functioning, and all of that. So that is a root cause. And if you're coming in and you're quite new to the group and you're curious about discovering what the root causes are for particularly autoimmune thyroid disease, just type root cause and we'll get that live training to you, because it's really, I feel like it's really good to just know. You may already know, but if you're wanting more information, just type root cause and we'll get that to you. All right, so here we go. Why would I ever think that healthy foods are not good for us? Well, here's the thing. I don't think that, but it's about really fine tuning. And sometimes when you have a sensitive gut, you've got a sensitive digestive system, which may have been going on for decades. It may be because of disharmony, like dysbiosis or a gut bug or any other type of allergy type situation going on. What happens then is we become more sensitive. We become more sensitive, and that's where there can be problems with other foods. Okay, so essentially we know that plants have thousands of phytochemicals or phytonutrients. I like to call them phytonutrients. They are actually a chemical. It's a naturally occurring plant chemical. And a lot of these are great. They're antioxidants. They help to lower inflammation. However, there's also a group of phytochemicals such as your lectins and your oxalates and goitrogens, etc., which can be a sabotaging factor to your healing. And I'm going to break that down shortly. But first, I'm going to talk about the plus side. You know, if you're steering clear of all of the vegetables because they come into one category because you read something at some point, you may actually be doing yourself a disservice, because there's also all of the other great nutrients, amino acids as well, all the plant pigments, which are anti-inflammatory, antioxidants, all your minerals, which are the backbone to your metabolism and whether you're a fast metabolizer or a slow metabolizer, our naturally occurring electrolytes, and all of these things. So, you know, we've got to be careful. You know, the last thing you want to do is go, oh, okay, they're lectins, there's a no. Here's oxalates, these are a no. Here's goitrogens, here's a no. And if you're doing that, well, guess what? That means you can't have quinoa, spinach, sweet potato, potatoes. You can't have millet. Quinoa and millet are both gluten-free grains, by the way, which are generally the go-to, okay, if you're having grains, even if you're having a little bit. It also would mean that you're not having cauliflower, broccoli, radishes, kohlrabi, kale. It also means that you wouldn't be having, you know, lots of foods, lots and lots and lots of foods, right? So that's just 3 categories. So can you imagine how many nutrients that you're missing out on because you're afraid of these foods? And what it may do inadvertently is steer you to processed gluten-free products, which are arguably way more dangerous than the wheat products, because most people who have a thyroid issue are gluten-free, and there's more and more evidence coming out on that. In fact, the evidence is ramping up so fast, I feel called to do another live training on that. So I think it's been about 6 months, and even since then, there's more evidence. So stay tuned for that if you're wanting evidence-based solutions here in this group. All right, so getting back to the good stuff. So phytochemicals or phytonutrients, you know, they are very well known to help prevent chronic diseases such as cancer. And lectins actually helps to lower the proliferation of cancer. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, which is super interesting. Right. So cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and autoimmune diseases. Okay, so these are the phytochemicals. All right, so they also are a major contributor to our digestive health through prebiotic and probiotic fibers, or I should say prebiotic fibers, through different types of, fibers and nutrients and all the other elements that make up that food. Okay, so, you know, it's really important to understand, and risk versus risk benefits versus risk ratio is what I'm trying to say. The benefits versus the risk ratio, and also ways in which you can navigate these food groups, right? So this is like it's kind of like a level that I go to with clients that have actually nutted out the basics. So the basics are to get rid of the absolute inflammatory components in your diet, which are typically processed foods. That's pretty well known. And lots of other E numbers and different foods which you may think are normal and part of a healthy diet, but essentially they're not, such as, store-bought gluten-free products, as an example. Okay. And dairy, which can be problematic in a lot of people, but not in other people. Okay. So it just depends on what's going on for you. All right, so I'm just gonna have a look in the chat to see who's here. Hey, Erin, great to see you here. Beautiful. Yes, we're gonna get right into it, Erin, and fantastic. Glad you're here, Leanne. And jump on in and say hello. Yeah, let's get this really interactive. I can't be looking at the chat all the time, so I'll just stop here and there. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. So first of all, lectins. Lectins are dubbed as anti-nutrients, which I really don't like. I dislike that word anti-nutrients because it basically means they've got nothing else to offer, which is completely untrue. Okay, so legumes are typically found in like all of your lectins are typically found in all of your legumes and your cereal type grains, your nuts and seeds. They kind of branch out into different fruits and vegetables as well, but essentially they are in those types of foods. Now, the pros are that they are very rich in fibers, different types of soluble and insoluble fibers, different types of prebiotic fibers, which are really great for your gut health and for the harmony of your gut. And we want our gut species to be broad. We want them to have a very broad diet and food source because it's our gut species which can actually become the root cause of your thyroid condition. So there's the kind of oxymoron there, right? Chicken egg, go figure. So this is why it's really, really important, I feel, to work with a health professional who really understands all of these components so that you can really navigate what's going on for you and not inadvertently do a disservice to your body and your health. Okay, so these lectins also contain antioxidants, lots of vitamins and minerals. These lectin-containing foods help to stabilize our blood sugar, support gut health, and reduce the risk of chronic diseases because of that reason. Okay, really, really slowing down that gastric motility, helping our body absorb certain nutrients if they are prepared properly. Okay, I will stress that. I cannot stress that enough. They need to be prepared properly. Okay, now the cons are because they're dubbed as anti-nutrients because there are certain compounds within which are the lectins which are in these foods. Need to slow down. Which are in these foods which bind to key minerals such as iron, calcium, and zinc. And as we know, iron and zinc are actively linked to our thyroid hormone production, and calcium is an important electrolyte which our body requires as well, and it is also a second messenger. So of course we need these minerals. So what do we do? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you. The other thing is it can cause gut irritation and inflammation. So that typically is if they are not prepared well. So this brings me on to my next point. How do we navigate this? How do we navigate the lectin debacle? Well, I've been thoroughly immersed in research which highlights that with proper food preparation, you can significantly reduce the lectin components in foods. Things like soaking, boiling, fermenting, autoclaving. Who has an autoclave device? Of course, nobody, because that's like a sterilizing, cooking apparatus. However, this actually equates to other methods of cooking as well. okay, such as cooking food under pressure, so pressure cooking. Okay. Um, so we want to avoid baking and roasting because the baking and the roasting actually increases the lectin content. So there you can see that lectins can be reduced through proper preparation. So we don't want to just be putting all those in the bad guy basket and putting a lid on it and never saying hello to any of those foods, because the bottom line is we don't want restrictive diets, we want an inclusive diet, because the more inclusive your diet is, the better off your gut species and microbiome will be for your future longevity and health of your thyroid and autoimmune issue. Now, it requires a step-by-step approach, right? It's really, really important. It's almost like a bit of a balancing act. Balance is a really key term for this, because for a period of time, it may well be that we need to eliminate lectins if they typically are looking like that they are problematic, until we get some gut harmony back, and then we can bring in these cooking procedures to further enhance the health of our gut so that we're then able to tolerate them. You know, you'd still be preparing them in the best possible way. Does anyone have any questions on lectins? Just pop that in the group before I move on to the next one. Yeah, activating nuts. Absolutely, Leanne. Yeah, perfect. And how do we activate nuts? We activate nuts by soaking them. So we want to soak them for, I generally put them, in a bowl of clean, purified water overnight, and then we need to dehydrate them or dry them out. You can also buy activated nuts, but that will significantly reduce the lectins. So it's really, really a great way to know that you're actually doing the very best for your body, as opposed to just, not having something that is highly nutritive and could be beneficial for your health. Obviously, depending on what else is going on in your health picture, right? Because, many of us, we come in with a thyroid disease. It can be autoimmune, which is Graves' or Hashimoto's, or it could be hypothyroid or hyperthyroid. You could have multi-nodules on your thyroid. It could be, there's a swinging thyroid. There are many different types of thyroid issues. However, generally there is something else going on. There could be a blood sugar problem. This is why I look at the whole health picture. It could be, as a cardiovascular issue, high blood pressure as an example. There could be really, really slow metabolic rate. Chronic UTIs, chronic gut infections. There's so many other things, which is why we need to look at the whole picture, and that will help to navigate which foods are best for you, and which are best to maybe pop to the side for now, with the goal in mind to bring back an inclusive diet. That's always the goal in mind. And how long does that take? How long is a piece of string? Like, it just depends on the complexity of your health picture, how long your issues have been going on for, how long your symptoms have been going on for. But can I just say, the sooner you start with a really good plan of action, the better off you're going to be in the long run. That's like, everyone who comes into my world, that's pretty much what they say, that they're glad they started because they know so much more and they're feeling so much better. Okay. All right, so sometimes there's an exploratory phase before we get to that, because health isn't linear, right? Sometimes we go up, we go down, we go up, we go down. It can be really frustrating. So we learn about that too, and navigating that as well. Okay, all right, so any questions, just please pop them in. I'm here to help. Okay, all right, so let's move on to oxalates. Actually, no, I just forgot to mention, I read some great research about lectins today. I just come across that and I was really, really excited. Lectins have been scientifically proven to slow down the proliferative, I can't say that. It's been an incredibly long day for me. Apologies. Proliferative cancer. Okay, so lectins have been proven to slow that down. And that is incredible. And this is 2024 study. So this is just last year. So it's brand new evidence. And, I'm yet to see where those links came in and go and do a deep dive into that research. But I think that's really, really exciting, because if we can understand why some of these naturally occurring plant chemicals are there, we can most likely see that there's a lot of good as well as bad. It's not just all bad. That's why we've got the yin and the yang, the light and the shade, the full moon and the new moon. There's always another side. So we need to look at the whole picture and then discern the evidence as it pertains to our health picture. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that in because that's really exciting. Okay, so oxalates. Oxalates. Okay, so oxalates are found in things like spinach, rocket sorrel, beet greens, beetroot, rhubarb, nuts, legumes, sweet potatoes, white potato, and quinoa. Okay, so the pros of oxalates are they are a great source of minerals. There's a plethora of minerals. Take baby spinach, magnesium, iron, calcium. There's so many different minerals. And vitamins, flavonoids because they're dark, bright colors, the dark green leafies and the orange vegetables, etc. They have prebiotic fibers, and they're great for overall health, and they are also gluten-free alternatives. I'm talking about the grains here, like the quinoa as an example. Now, the cons are, in certain individuals, way more than others, they can form crystal-like structures in the tissues. So think gout, think kidney stones, think gallbladder stones. And also looking at some research today that they can be a component of the nodules in your thyroid. So if for example, a nodule was dissected, these crystalline-like structures would be part of the matrix of that nodule. And that is really, really interesting. And nodules is a whole new topic, that actually deserves a live training on its own, because there's hot nodules, there's cold nodules, there's different types of nodules. And I'm not an endocrinologist, and I'm not a thyroid specialist surgeon who studies nodules. However, I can read research, and I'm happy to bring this information to you if you would like. So if you'd like a live training specifically on nodules, just type nodules so that I can know that there's interest there. Even if you come in on the replay, even if you've watched this live training in 6 months' time and you're thinking, oh, wow, yeah, I really want to know about that, just type nodules. And if there's interest there, I will bring that research to the fore. Okay, getting back to it. So other things. So some clients that I have come into my world, they have other conditions and pain type issues such as joint pain. So this could be a little bit of a red flag that your body may not be breaking down oxalates all that well. And that's why we do the functional testing, because there are key functional tests that, if this is a particular thing that I'm flagging for you as an individual, that I will most likely do for you, given that that's so incredibly indicated. So to see whether you're breaking that down, okay? Because it's based on our genetics, how those genes operate since we've been born, under certain conditions. We can form little SNPs, otherwise known as single nucleotide polymorphisms, which are just like little genetic defects. And I'm telling you now, we all have them. Okay, so don't worry if you find out that you've got that, like it's very, very common. However, when you know and you've got this information, that's when you know how to navigate it. Okay, so this can contribute to things like inflammation and pain. So if you've got chronic gut pain, that would be a potential indication. Now, it could also be a parasite. It could also be dysbiosis. It could also be a yeast infection. There are so many other reasons for pain. So this is why a comprehensive consultation really helps me isolate your picture with what's going on to really formulate the next steps moving forward. So if you're wanting to if this is already resonating, just type resonating. I'd love to know. I'd love to know whether I'm on track with, what's actually resonating with you. If you already know this information, let me know as well. If this is brand new to you, just type brand new so that I know that, yes, I can deliver more information along these topics. Okay, so how to navigate? Well, not dissimilar to lectins. We navigate oxalates by soaking, boiling, steaming, like peeling and pairing with calcium-rich foods. Now, of course, if you've got a dairy issue, we want to be careful there. And a lot of other dairy-rich foods, guess what, contain other food compounds. So it can be quite complex. So it's a way, essentially we need to look at, well, what's going on for you? And this is another reason why certain functional tests help me understand the mineral ratios in your body and what, the levels of minerals are in your body so that I can see whether you're getting enough juice from the food, so to speak. All right. How else to navigate them? Yes, absolutely. So functional testing. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So functional testing. And if you've got any questions, please pop them in. Fantastic. Oh, Sharon, so hang on a minute, let me just scroll up here. So we should avoid baking and roasting vegetables. Not all vegetables, Sharon, and only if, okay, so we don't want to avoid everything. Okay, and we don't want to include everything. It depends on your own health picture. However, essentially, let's say, for example, you have an oxalate. It's a little bit of a hallmark that you may have an oxalate breaking down issue. For you, if that was the case, I would recommend boiling as opposed to baking, because the boiling helps to release the oxalates into the water as opposed to baking, which would concentrate it into the food product. Does that make sense, Sharon? Let me know, and I can talk to you more about that specifically as well. Okay, beautiful. Another question. What are phytofoods? Yeah, great question. So phytonutrients. So phytochemicals or phytonutrients are an overarching umbrella term for all those plant pigments, such as your carotenoids, such as your polyphenols, for example, your astaxanthin and resveratrol, which are just kind of like, it gets broken down and then they get broken down into more and then they get broken down into more, because that's what science does, right? It breaks it all down and studies the component and goes, woohoo, this component helps with this issue, and then they potentize it and make a supplement out of it. All right, so we don't want to be relying on that either. Okay, but that's actually why there's research done in this area and we know all of this. I hope that answered your question, Erin, and we will get more into that as well. Okay, let me get back into this. Okay, all right, so let's move on to histamines. So histamines are found in fermented foods. So if you're having things like sauerkraut and kimchi to help with the plethora of your gut species in your microbiome, and if you're then having like allergic reactions or seemingly histamine reactions like hives or itchiness like urticaria or swelling, well, that is an indicator that you've got a histamine intolerance. And they found in fermented foods things like aged cheeses, cured meats, and just certain fruits and vegetables. I mean, tomatoes as an example. Tomatoes may not necessarily contain histamine, however, they can provoke histamine. So bananas as an example doesn't necessarily contain histamine, however, it can provoke histamine. So if you have a histamine intolerance, for a period of time, we need to be careful of foods that provoke that reaction, because if you're provoking that reaction, you're going to induce inflammation in your body, which will be problematic to your autoimmune thyroid condition. Okay, so the pros for histamine foods are they're rich in vitamin A, your beta carotene, which converts to vitamin A. proteins, and lots of different essential nutrients, okay, such as tomatoes and carrots, and not carrots. Carrots aren't histamine forming foods, but tomatoes is a typical one. Shellfish as well, which is also very high in selenium. Selenium is one of the backbones for your thyroid wellness, for the thyroid hormones. It helps convert T4 to T3. It helps promote and bring down autoantibodies, your thyroid peroxidase autoantibodies. Okay, so, we just need to look at everything and how that works for you in your body, rather than just going, okay, we're just wiping out that whole food group. Okay, so the cons. You would have a genetic SNP if you cannot break down histamines properly. Okay, so it's like an enzyme mutation, and it's the DAO enzyme. Okay, so you would most likely know, or you may not know, and sometimes it could be a chicken and egg situation where your autoimmune thyroid is provoking a histamine reaction as well. Okay, so typical signs and symptoms I've mentioned. I would just wish to include into that sneezing, skin rashes, things like that, gut inflammation, and thyroid-related autoimmune flare-ups. Okay, so it can be a situation where it becomes a little trigger to a flare, a thyroid flare. So if you've had a thyroid flare, just drop thyroid flare. I'd love to know, because it's a very spontaneous reaction which seemingly occurs out of the blue. However, it's generally because of a buildup of certain either foods or circumstances, or the whole lot, that's actually led to that flare in the first place. How to navigate this? Test for your genetic SNPs if you're unsure, and then you can actually take a particular enzyme related supplement to help block this histamine. Other things that help to block histamine are good amounts of zinc and vitamin C, quercetin. So we want to make sure that your body's already loaded with those vital nutrients, vitamins, I should say. Okay, and then also just, spreading out your histamine-rich food. So education and knowledge is power, and when it's applied is actually what resolves the issue. So knowing where the foods are, knowing which ones are the provokers, and knowing which ones are laden with histamine and the level of histamine, knowing what's going on with your genes, and then you can actually have them here and there and not all of the time. The other thing is, when you're keeping food, we all keep leftovers. It kind of saves time, and my clients know how to work with those leftovers to really get the best out of their nutrition. But in terms of histamine, I'll just say that the longer you keep the leftover food, as in days, the higher and stronger the histamine will be in that food, because all food as it ages will create histamine. So it's just something for you to know, just in case you found a link there. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Any questions on before we move on, any questions on histamines? I'd love to know. Hey Kath, great to see you here. Okay. Yeah, I know Leanne's had a thyroid flare, because Leanne and I have worked together. Yeah, so Leanne has had a thyroid flare, so you would know specifically. So Sharon, you've had a thyroid flare. Okay, yes, need to learn more about that one. Yeah, I'm glad this is resonating. Okay, fantastic. And if you're coming on in later on, and if you listen to this, I always zoom back to these comments. So please just tag me, or Leanne or Shell, which are my team, and put your question in. It's really, really important that your question gets answered. Okay. All right. Okay, salicylates. So salicylates are a naturally occurring pigment in foods. They're like a plant hormone, and we have plant hormones. Another plant hormone is amines, which are in like chocolates and bananas. Salicylates, I'm talking specifically about salicylates because they also harbor oxalates and lectins. So they're kind of like, if you're wondering about oxalates and lectins, it could actually be a salicylate allergy. And they occur in most fruits and vegetables. Foods really high in salicylates are like all of your berries, tomatoes, citrus, herbs and spices. Lots of herbs and spices, a lot of your nuts and seeds. There's a lot of foods. Avocado is really high in salicylates. So just be mindful of that you could be thinking that oxalates or lectins are the problem, whereas it could actually be salicylates, or it could be a compound problem, for you. And I just want you to know that if you're getting overwhelmed right now, please just breathe. Please just stop for a moment and breathe, because wherever there's a problem from a food, when we understand how that's occurring in our body, it's an opportunity to heal. The more knowledge we understand about what foods are interacting with us in our body, like healthy foods interacting with us in our body, that's where we can take that information and accrue that body wisdom and then actually do something about it. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling like this is way too much information, just, zoom back in, type chat, or just reach out to me and we can have a chat, because the last thing I want is for you to feel overwhelmed by this information, because it can be really complex. You've already got a thyroid issue, you've already got an autoimmune thyroid issue or a complex gut issue. And then, you might have had a food allergy test or a food intolerance test, or you might have had a gut microbiome test, or you might be new to the game and not have done any testing. And, along the way, you've found this piece of information and this piece of information. And whilst we're working on that, then there's other things to consider. And that's just the way it is, like if something's been going on and brewing for 10, 20, or 30 years, it's going to be complex. And this is why thyroid challenges tend to be complex. This is why sometimes you read things and they say, do this, do the Paleolithic diet, you will be healed. Do the ketogenic diet, you will be healed. There's no such thing. It can really help one person, but it may not be the right way or the right step at this point in time for another person. It's not just about what to do, it's also when to do it. If everyone who came into my world, if I said, okay, we've got to look at this, guess what? It's just going to be so incredibly overwhelming, so incredibly restrictive, and we're never going to learn anything about your body, because some of these things cannot be tested. A lot can, some can't. Okay? All right. So, how to navigate them. So, sorry, the cons with salicylates, they can be inflammatory in sensitive individuals. So if you are sensitive to salicylates, whether you know that or not, that could be inflaming your thyroid and sabotaging your healing, whether it's Graves or Hashimoto's. How to navigate it? There are actually really good elimination diets. These are not new. I know that certain hospitals and clinics do them. There are certain things that you can do to help figure out whether this is a problem for you. Would it be a place to start? It depends on what's going on for you, and it would depend on what showed up in like a comprehensive deep dive session, so that I could then ascertain, like with you, whether that is the first step or not. Because, we're all very, very different. We all have our different set of genes and, SNPs to those genes and complex health scenarios. And, there's no right way to start. Actually, there is a right way to start. The best first step to start is to get rid of what I call the low-hanging fruit, to really clear the slate. I'm talking the obvious contenders, like your sugar, alcohol, all your E number foods, all your processed foods. That's actually the best place to start, as opposed to jumping in and getting rid of some really potentially health fortifying foods. All right, so let's move on to isothiocyanates. So they're often understood as goitrogens. They're actually naturally occurring plant compound that are found in the cruciferous family of vegetables. Now, the cruciferous family are excellent liver health foods. They're excellent to help your metabolism of estrogen. So if you're also going into perimenopause or menopause, you want to be really careful at eliminating your isothiocyanate foods because you've got a thyroid condition. If you've got Graves' disease, go for it. Don't worry about it. Just go with your cruciferous. Hashimoto's, a lot of people avoid these types of food. Hypothyroidism, a lot of people avoid these type of foods. And I feel that it's, I'm not a fan of that at all because they just harbor so many nutrients and so many other healing properties that we want to be careful. And the thing is the isothiocyanate or the goitrogenic food, what that actually does is it inhibits our body's ability to absorb iron. So of course we can navigate that. We just need to look at ways in which we are fortifying our diet with iodine. Did I say iron? I think I said iron. I meant iodine. So we want to look at that. Also cooking, cooking them well, having a balance of crunchy cruciferous with well-cooked cruciferous depending on the occasion, just really mixing it up. Okay, I'm going to move on because time is getting away. Now, these particular foods could cause issues in certain gut issues in certain individuals if you're sensitive to FODMAP foods, which again should only be for a period of time. Look, sometimes it can drag on for several months, even years, but essentially it's a waiting game until we get to the bottom of what's going on with your gut. And then we want to bring those back in because of how much the goods that these types of foods bring to our longevity and to our whole health and wellness. Okay, all right, so I'm going to move on. Soy, now that is also a isothiocyanate food or a goitrogenic food. Now, soy has been absolutely branded as a bad food. It can be a really healthy food. It's a great, dairy-free source of calcium. It's also a great source of protein for people who choose not to eat meat. Okay, so the important thing is to get a non-GM crop, make sure it's organic, and ensure that it is a really good source. And again, it may not be good for you, but essentially it could be good for you, especially if you're going through perimenopause, because it is also a phytoestrogenic food. Okay, so it can have some very great benefits to your hormonal health from that perspective as well. Excuse me for one moment. Okay. All right, so we want to choose fermented soy products like the tempeh, miso, natto for better digestion as well. Okay, we want to exclude those products if you have a yeast infection. So there are so many things to look at, okay? And it's a step-by-step approach. I cannot stress that enough. Okay, so pop your questions in. I'm going to keep going on because we've still got a little bit to cover. Gluten. Now, gluten is a common trigger for autoimmune thyroid. There is so much more research coming out. And may I say, because the non-gluten version, wheat, doesn't really have all that many health benefits because we can get so many other sources of fiber from foods. I highly recommend a gluten-free diet for pretty much everyone. Some people choose to have sourdough. Some people make their own sourdough. Like if you've got nothing turning up on your food inflammatory panel, that could be an option. However, gluten per se is actually showing up more and more as being problematic in clinical trials. So this is scientific studies that have gone to the level of clinical trials with people and found that autoantibodies come down on a gluten-free diet. Having said that, we don't want to swap to a processed gluten-free diet. That's just a big no-no, and that's something I go through with diligently with my clients. Okay. How to navigate home-baked, clearly whole food alternatives, and consider food inflammatory testing as well. Just consider whether it is a major factor in your body or just a little bit of a factor. Okay. All right, dairy, very similar to gluten. You know, it may show up in your body that you're sensitive to the casein, to, um, or even lactose. It could be lactose intolerance, which is the carbohydrate in milk, or it could be the protein, which is the casein or the whey. Okay, so you're only going to know if you actually do that level of testing. And then it could also be a situation where your gut is in, or your digestive system is in such disharmony that your body's just reacting to everything at this point in time until we actually create some cohesion in that, which is why a lot of times it's really advantageous to do 2 lots of testing. One now, then after a certain period of time and a protocol and diligent food preparation and, having a specific diet that's tailored to your needs, then doing another level of testing so that we can see what's changed, what's improved, etc. All right. And I just wanted to also bring in carbohydrates because some people are actually intolerant to carbohydrates. They put on weight quite easily. They may be a slow metabolizer. They may not digest it very well. Hallmarks for that are, really high blood sugar in your typical pathology report. You may have some insulin sensitivity. You might have some high triglycerides. So these are your normal labs that you get from the doctor. You may just feel really fatigued after a carbohydrate-rich meal. And that's where we need to look at balancing your mineral ratios. So that's where you're not getting the right juice from foods to serve your body. And the thing is carbohydrates are really important to help the conversion of T4 to T3 for thyroid health. However, if you're not tolerating carbohydrates, we need to actually dig deeper and delve under your picture and actually fix what's going on so that you can then tolerate them. Because going on a long-term ketogenic diet may actually not be healthful for your thyroid, even though it could be good for your metabolism. So I'll just say that there's no one size fits all with that. Same with the Paleolithic diet. It's going to be pretty difficult if you tend to do well if you're an A blood type or an A plus blood type, and you tend to do really well on vegetables and vegan style foods and not so well on meat. Let's say you don't digest meat well, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to follow a Paleolithic diet. So we look at everything and then we see what is best applied to you, which becomes your diet. It doesn't actually have a label. It's your dietary blueprint. It's your dietary blueprint whilst considering everything. Now, do we consider everything on day one? Absolutely not. We need to get rid of the, those prime elements that are clearly sabotaging factors first. Obviously, we need to work with your lifestyle, with your job, with your stress levels, with your circumstances, and really focusing on everything. Because if it's going to be overwhelming and just not doable, guess what? You're not going to be able to do it. And then you're going to end up, being in a worse situation or just being confused and overwhelmed and stressed about it all. Because it can be quite stressful. I've had so many conversations with beautiful women lately that have noticed how complex their situation is. And I'm just telling you now, you're not alone. And I feel that sometimes, this is why I say, the thyroid often is the last domino to fall within the endocrine system. It's almost like all the other things go a bit skew-ef and then the thyroid falls down. So ideally, of course, we want to nip it in the bud, but wherever you are on your health journey, now is a great time to start because there's always something to work on. Always. There's always some overarching glaring features from the very first consultation that we can work on. And then there are some other elements that do require a level of functional testing. Okay, so it just depends on what's going on for you. So I'm going to actually end it there because this has been an extended live training. However, what I feel like I'm going to do is I'm going to create a handout with this information as a little bit of a, like a good little cheat sheet for you. So if you're wanting cheat sheet, just type cheat sheet. I've got to be careful with how fast I say that. Cheat sheet. And what we'll do is over the coming days we'll get that going, and I'll share that with you just to help you, because having this level of understanding is key. Applying it to your own health picture is something completely different, and I will say that in my strong opinion warrants teaming up with a naturopath. I'm the thyroid naturopath. Just saying. Or you may already have a naturopath, and you're welcome to stay in this group and work with a naturopath, by the way. You're very, very welcome. We're all on different journeys. We all sync with different practitioners and different people. And it's not even about that. It's about you getting the very best for your health and moving forward with your health. And that's my wish. My heartfelt wish for every single person that comes into this space. If you can just glean one piece of information and go with it, if something resonates with you and you think, you know what, this is it, I just need to dive in now and really work with Megan to uncover the complexities of what's going on with my health picture, just type I'm ready. And what we'll do is we'll reach out to you, we'll schedule a session so that we can just go through your health picture and figure out what the main contenders are for you, and I can map out a plan for you. Whether you actually go forth on that plan is your decision, but I can map out a plan for you, and then you can have the next step for you moving forward. All right, well, let me just see if there's any further questions. Cheat sheet. Yes, Linda, we'll get that to you. Beautiful. Yes, absolutely, Erin. We will get the cheat sheet to you. Yes, Kath. Fantastic. Absolutely love to get that to you. Sharon's getting the cheat sheet. Leanne's getting the cheat sheet. Cheryl's getting the cheat sheet. And you know what? If you're coming in later on and you're wanting the cheat sheet, even if it's 6 months, 12 months down the track, 1 month down the track, next week, tomorrow, just type cheat sheet, and we'll get that to you. And it will, of course, be updated along the way, because there's always new science coming out. This is a great thing. We work with our body wisdom and we work with science. We understand what's going on in our unique body and we work with the science. We don't just take the science and throw out all the good work we've done and just do that. We work with both. All right, that's it from me. Have a beautiful rest of the week, and next week we'll have another vibrant topic. And if you're wanting to book if you're not actually working with me and you're wanting to learn more about how I can help you, just type call, and we'll book a call and get you on your way with your health. All right, that's it from me. Bye for now.